Hi everyone, it's Brian here, back with a look at another GamePro magazine. This is GamePro issue number 63 from, I believe it is October 1994. You can see Sonic and Knuckles is on the front, highly anticipated Sega Genesis game. You see a picture of Shaquille O'Neal here, which was big at the time, for Shaq Fu, an infamous game. Virtual Fighter on the front. Primal Rage strategy guide. GamePro is renowned for their strategy guides for fighting games. And we'll open it up and take a look. Right now, right here, what you see when you're first greeted with is a picture of Bubsy the Bobcat, and in Bubsy 2, which was coming out. And you also have the Twisted Tales of Spike McFang, the game I am looking for the Super Nintendo. Fun little RPG game, action RPG game I've heard about. Sega CD ad that you've seen in many of my issues. Games Unicode ad. Table of contents, Street Fighter hits the big screen. A look at the Street Fighter movie, which I really like, with Raul Julia and Jean-Claude Van Damme. On location, Shaq Attacks fighting games. Shaquille O'Neal and Delphini Software are ready to fight. That must be Shaq Fu, the Primal Rage strategy guide. Virtual Bart, Spider-Man and Venom, Maximum Carnage. More trading cards for comics, very big at the time. The awesome ad for Breath of Fire. And we have Reader's Mail. Are you ready for fighting games? Want to fight about it? The raging debate over the fighting game phenomenon is played out nearly every month in the mail pages, just as Drew Fuller, whose letter leads off the mail this month. It's a relatively new debate, though. 2 years ago, fighting games were so hot that no gamer would dare criticize them. If gamers are starting to cool on fighting games, doesn't mean that the genre has been milked dry. So even now, during this time, there were so many fighting games they were saying they were milked. And there were so many fighting games during that time. After all, what other adjectives can be added to the Street Fighter II name? Super duper Street Fighter II? It's already an old joke. And look at the coming Samurai Showdown release. There are 5 versions coming out. Is it Samurai Overkill? So they're debating, are there too many fighting games, basically. Some recent letters, writers like Kirk in your June issue have been giving some narrow-minded criticism of fighting games. They claim that all fighting games are the same, and that all the characters are trying to be champions. This latter fact simply isn't true. For instance, Chun-Li fights to avenge her father's death. Liu Kang and Kung Lao are fighting to restore the Shaolin temples. Could it be that people who criticize fighting games just aren't any good at them? Your June mail stated that Capcom told you the symbols on Ryu's belt in Street Fighter II stood for wind, water, fire, and mountains. But I think they stand for wind, forest, fire, and mountains. These are 4 strengths in martial arts. Be fast like the wind, quiet like the forest, fierce like a fire, and steady like a mountain. What has more games related to them? Mario, Sonic, or Mega Man? Hey, all you game pros, see if you can count them yourself, including games related to these characters, even if they didn't star in them. Also, include the games that just now coming out. The official tally is revealed in the reader report at the end of the mail. So they're going to give you the answer of who had the most games between those 3. The reader report. Okay. Okay, here's the answer to Matt's question about the number of games with Mario, Sonic, and Mega Man. Sonic has 12 games, 5 on the Genesis, Sonic 1 through 3, Spinball, and the new Sonic & Knuckles in October. 1 on the Sega CD, Sonic CD, and 6 on the Game Gear. 1 and 2, Chaos Spinball, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and the upcoming Triple Trouble. Mega Man has 15 games, nearly all identified with a Roman numeral. There are 7 M's on the NES, 7 Mega Mans on the NES, 4 on the Game Boy, including the new Dr. Wily's Revenge, 1 on the Super Game Boy, the upcoming Mega Man 5, 2 on the SNES, Mega Man X, Mega Man Soccer, and 1 on the Genesis, the upcoming Wily Wars, which we didn't get in the US. Mario has 19 games ranging from Donkey Kong in 1981 to Super Mario World in 1990 and Yoshi's Safari in 1993. 5 Mario games have joined the Plumbers Parade in 1994. Mario's Time Machine and Mario's Missing for the SNES, Hotel Mario on the CDI, Donkey Kong for the Super Game Boy, and Super Mario Land 3 for the Game Boy. Now bear in mind this is from September of 1994, so a lot more have come out, especially for Mario, and Mega Man had quite a few. Sonic 2. So there are quite, but even back then, these series had 15, 12 games in them. And here's the awesome ad for Final Fantasy III, one of my favorite games for the Super Nintendo. And this ad was really cool. Here's the reader's mail that they sent in. Tournament Fighters art. Ken doing a shuriken. And if you get your reader art sent in, you get a barcode battler. If you don't remember these, they're basically these handheld games. It was like versus fighting games where you scan the barcode and it would give you stats, and you'd fight, and whoever had the higher stats would take so many hit points off, I believe. It was 1 versus 1. It wasn't really much gameplay, just like a stats thing, I believe. There's the ad continue for Final Fantasy III. Now this is a funny thing. Back in these days, there were ads promoted by the Super Nintendo, or Nintendo and other companies that are made to look like reviews, but they were actually advertisements like this one. So during the time the Genesis was advertising, it was much faster. It could do sports games better. So Nintendo has this ad here that looks like a review. It says the final score on the 16-bit sports games. Basically said head-to-head competition. And if you don't own a Super NES, you can't play many of the best sports games available, like Ken Griffey's Jr. presents Major League Baseball, NCAA Basketball, Stunt Racer Fx, and Tommy Moe's Winter Extreme Skiing and Snowboarding. So this was an ad by Nintendo to basically against the Sega ads against them. Hot at the Arcades, Bloodstorm. The Jaguar CD coming out in Cutting Edge. Sonic and Knuckles, twice as much fun. Street Fighter hits the big screen, and I was so psyched for this movie. And I still love this movie. You see it has the cast they released who the cast was. Talk a little bit about it. Mortal Kombat 2 for the SNES. And this, compared to Mortal Kombat, the first one on the Super Nintendo, the sequel was a much far superior game. I liked it a lot more than the first one. Mortal Kombat 2 on the Genesis. And the Genesis didn't have the one-up on the Nintendo this time, because the Super Nintendo version actually did have blood this time without entering a code, I believe. I believe you had to enter a code on the first one for Super Nintendo to get blood. Mortal Kombat 2 on the Game Gear. And even the Game Boy got Mortal Kombat 2. Coming soon, software, etc. Final Fantasy 3, you see right here. Shaq Fu, the making of Shaq Fu. See motion capture, they actually motion capture the actors. Shaq Fu is renowned for being a very bad game, but I have played, there's a lot of games out there that are worse than Shaq Fu. Blackthorn for the Super Nintendo, and this is a good port of the PC. It was also on the, I think it was on the PC originally. I could be mistaken. It was definitely on the 32X. The Genesis as well, I believe, and the Super Nintendo. Dynamite Heady. Sega Genesis platformer. Taz Escape from Mars for the Genesis. Weird Science. I remember watching this shortly run USA comedy series based on the movie. It's about two guys, these guys here, who create a girl using science. Double Dragon 5, based on the animated series, I believe. And it was a one-on-one fighter. Tiny Toons Adventures Acme All-Stars for the Genesis. Looks like a soccer game. Vortex for the Super Nintendo. I believe this used the Super FX chip as well. Did not get the best of reviews, kind of 3.5s across the board, which is average. I guess I should say that's okay reviews. Stunt Racer Fx, another Super FX chip game. Here's something interesting by Sega. The IR7000. Get the message? Whispering is for gutless weasels. So basically this was a instant messaging device that would send messages and crude pictures back and forth between you and your friends. What we all take for granted today on a phone using SMS text messaging is basically in this, not in this device, but this device does. Whispering is pathetic, exactly why Sega made the IR7000 with 14 different features so you can communicate with your friends in class without making a sound via its invisible infrared beam. So it sends it via infrared. So I would think it's line of sight. Virtual Bart. Got okay reviews, 4.5s, 4.5s, and 4.0 and 4.0 for sound and graphics. The Great Circus Mystery, starring Mickey and Minnie Mouse. This is the sequel to The Magical Quest. Final Fight Guy. Basically the same game as Final Fight, just with Guy in it instead of Cody. Maximum Carnage for the Super NES. R-Type 3 for the Super NES. Philips CDI played a lot of the full motion video games. You got Seventh Guest, Space Ace, Dragon's Lair, Mad Dog McCree. Who Shot Johnny Rock for the 3DO. Brutal Sports Football for the Jaguar. Actually was a very well received game. Don't know if it's not quite like Mutant League Football, but it's similar vein to it, I believe. I've never played it, but from looking at it, similar to it. And here's the Primal Rage strategy guide. Primal Rage was trying to cash in on the fighting game genre at this time, along with popularity of dinosaurs among kids. If you don't know, you played as dinosaurs and you basically fought. One-on-one fighting game. Can't say I've ever played more than a few seconds on a version. Somewhere I played maybe a few minutes, not seconds. But it was in the arcades. That's where it was, I guess, its most popular. Which I wouldn't say was too popular, but it had people playing it enough to be popular enough to have a home arcade home version. This is the butt of an earthworm that saved the world. Earthworm Jim for the SNES and Genesis. Coming in October. I like that ad. Very simple, clean. Here's an ad for the game Balls for the, I believe it's the Genesis and Super Nintendo. Dragon's Lair and Space Ace for the CDI. Godzilla for the Turbo Duo. An ad for the Atari Jaguar. Dick Vitale's Awesome Baby College Hoops. Never knew that existed. The Role Players Realm, the one section I look forward to each month. Brain Lord for the Super Nintendo. Got 3.5 for graphics, 3.0 for sound, 3.0 for control, and 4.0 for fun factor. Pretty average from what the reviews. RPG. It was developed by... Who was it developed by? Enix. This standard RPG would fall into the dungeon with the rest of the clones if it weren't for its Zelda-style puzzle solving. You'll find yourself intrigued by this aspect of the game, along with the sheer suspense of finding out if you ever going to drive a dragon again. Better brush up on the written test first. Brain Dead. Real RPG players may dismiss this peripheral RPG as somewhat of a distraction. Although it does have its hit points, spells, and weapons, Brainlord doesn't ask much of you. Just some slugging and some solving. Dragon View, Uncharted Waters New Horizon. Koei was famous for these strategy RPG games that were really hard to play. Still don't know what I'm doing when I play these games. They really require you to sit down and really think and learn the game. I've never played Dragon View, but I remember being intrigued by it. Aerobiz Supersonic. Another game by Koei. Ever wanted to run your own airport? Hire staff, maintain the planes, custom paint an airplane? Koei gives you the chance to prove your mettle as an airline tycoon, but you may find that you like dog fighting more. So I didn't get too good reviews. But these games, you can't really go by the reviews. If you're the type of person that likes doing this stuff, then you'll love these games. If you like doing this stuff, I mean like doing simulations, running, simulations of, running your own business, taking care of the micromanaging of troops in these kind of games and stuff. Some Game Boy quick hits here. Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble. SWAT Pro. Code for Streets of Rage 2. Play as Roo the Kangaroo. Streets of Rage 3. Play as the boss Shiva. King of Dragons. Select same characters, so you can play as Arthur, or the fighter, cleric. Game Genie code. Enter the Whirlwind, the Super FX chip. And this is an ad for Vortex. Fighter's Edge was a weekly or a monthly GamePro fighting strategy guide section. And this month they covered Virtual Fighter. I think this is the second part. I think last issue I reviewed, they had a Virtual Fighter strategy guide as well. Another ad for Earthworm Jim. Another in a sketch type of ad. He has no spine, but he's all guts. Earthworm Jim for the SNES and Genesis. Sylvester and Tweety. And this is... I don't know what game this is called. Sylvester and Tweety and Cage Capers is what it's called. For the Sega Genesis. Looks very beautiful looking game. As a kid, this would have caught your eye because that looks very gorgeous even today. In Aerobiz Supersonic, everything's better but the food. Aerobiz Supersonic. Oh, was that on the Genesis as well? I did not know that. And that was the Koei Run Your Own Airlines simulator that was in the Role Players Realm a few pages back. Buyers beware, beware. Where they covered people's questions about faulty hardware, software, stuff that they'd send in and to GamePro, and GamePro would try to get answers by contacting the developer or whoever developed the game or made the software or made the hardware. Booger Man, a pick and flick adventure. It's on the Genesis and also the Super Nintendo game. Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo version is a little harder to find, running about $40. Earthworm Jim for the Genesis and Super Nintendo, coming soon in Pro Shots. Sequel to Clay Fighter, C2 Judgment Clay. Gex for the 3DO. This was the game that, one of the games that tried to sell the 3DO, a platform game, almost like the mascot, even though it didn't have a mascot. It was a good game. I remember seeing my friend play it. Pitfall the Mayan Adventure was on Genesis and Super NES. Very good game. Action platformer. Indiana Jones for the Super Nintendo. I believe this would go on to the Indiana Jones' Greatest Adventure. Started off, I think it was going to be they wanted to have, from what I remember, 3 games, but they didn't have the time or the budget, so they just put all 3 Indiana Jones movies into one game. The best scenes were in levels and stuff, similar to the Super Star Wars series. Turbo Duo ad. Wish I would have got a Turbo Duo back then. Sparkster for the Super Nintendo. Coming soon, Rayman for the Jaguar. And I remember looking at this little caption here for Final Fantasy III and just reading it and looking at the pictures over and over again. Sure to be this year's hottest RPG, Final Fantasy III is not related to Final Fantasy V in Japan. An entirely new adventure created just for the United States, the game has everything an RPG enthusiast demands. Action-adventure and monsters up the wazoo. The storyline includes lots of cool subplots, flashbacks, and real-time combat. And the colorful graphics use Mode 7 effects in a brand new flying sequence. Obviously, that's a little false. Final Fantasy III was not a brand new adventure just created for the US. It was actually Final Fantasy VI. Captain Commando, I'm looking for that game for the Super Nintendo. Nickelodeon's Guts, if you remember the game show Guts. I didn't know they made I didn't know they made a Super Nintendo game on it. Ultra 64 graphic development. Nintendo made a stunning declaration recently, stating that it would utilize 500 MHz memory chips created by Rambus Inc. in its upcoming Ultra 64 game system. Using these chips will permit the high-speed computation needed to accomplish the 3D graphics promised by Nintendo. The chips will also help keep the Ultra 64 within the $250 retail cost that was previously announced. In another related announcement, Nintendo selected Alias Research to create 3D graphics development tools that will be used to construct the high-level imagery in Ultra 64 software. Alias is best known for software used in movies like Jurassic Park and Terminator 2, but its Power Animator software also helped Rare and Nintendo develop the upcoming Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. According to a press release, Nintendo has purchased a large number of Alias Power Animator licenses, making it one of the largest 3D development sites in the world. So basically, it mentions the Ultra 64 is going to use Rambus memory, and who's going to develop the graphics chip for it. Oh yeah, here's a little thing about the Double Dragon movie. The Double Dragon movie, starring Robert Patrick, the T-1000 in Terminator 2, and Alyssa Milano from TV's Who's the Boss, is ready for release. Like the popular video game series, Double Dragon deals with the adventure of Billy and Jimmy Lee, played by Scott Wolf and Mark Dacascos. Martial arts, excuse me, I mispronounced that, it's hard to read upside down. Martial arts experts and brothers who are trying to survive in New Angeles and keep the other half of a power medallion from Konga Shuko Patrick. Here's this clip from the, or shot, a screen cap from the movie. Rumors of the Neo Geo CD have been circulating since 1990, but now it's actually going to happen. SNK showed its upcoming CD Neo Geo combination console at the Tokyo Toy Fair this summer. The game system will hit US stores in the summer of 1995. And I had a chance to buy this at the local game store I visit. It was the whole system in the box with about 18 games for $300. And I had the money, I went back to get it, but I don't know if they shipped it or sold it, but it was gone. Where's Sega going? Disney World. Guaranteeing itself an audience of happy vacationers, Sega has signed a 3-year deal to Disney to display its interactive entertainment products at Walt Disney World's new Innovations display at the Epcot 94 showcase in Orlando, Florida. The exhibit which opens July 1st, includes 140 Genesis, Sega CD, and Game Gear stations that visitors can play freely. The 10,000 square foot display, twice as large as the next biggest exhibitor, is broken into 5 areas: interest, action, adventure, sports, family, and kids. And the back cover has an ad for Virtual Bart. And there you have it. That is GamePro issue number 63 from October of 1994. Not the greatest issue. I do remember the cover, but not one that really sticks out in my mind with a lot of nostalgia as a kid. So thanks everybody for watching. And until I see you again next time for the next GamePro review, take care.